alongside Danny B, Bartels, and Zach Simon. We have on the guest line right now Sixers play-by-play announcer, author, and more importantly, former Temple Owl, Mr. Marc Zumoff. Marc, my man, how you doing today?
Temple, that's tops on the list, boys.
Of course, I like it already, Marc. So, Marc, listen, you got Steph Curry coming to town tonight in a couple hours. He's one of the more electrifying players in the NBA. You know, he pretty much perfected the art of shooting the basketball. Of the Currys of the world, the LeBrons, the Durants, who's your favorite non-current Sixer to call a game for?
Well, I haven't called any of Steph's games this year, but I like a guy who's got a lot of different skills, and you just named three guys who have a lot of different skills. I would add Russell Westbrook to that as well, just because of the tenacity with which he plays with.
Mr. Triple-Double, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say guys who have a lot of different skills and can play both ways. I certainly fit that category. I'll be honest with you, I'm really looking forward to seeing Draymond Green, just because I think for a guy his size, for a second-round pick, his accomplishments have been phenomenal. And I like glue guys. I like guys who, all right, I need X this night. Will you give this to me?
Yeah.
And they could, and plus he could probably guard just about anybody. And that's really what helps them a lot, along with all their three-point shooting. The fact that, especially when they go small with him in the middle, they can switch any pick and roll just about at any time. So I'm looking forward to seeing Draymond. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing Steph. And I won't turn LeBron or Durant or any of those guys away from the door.
Hey, Marc. Zach here. Steph Curry right now, he's the best show on hardwood. Right now on StubHub, tickets are going for $130. You've broadcasted NBA basketball for over 30 years. Where does Steph Curry rank now? I know his resume isn't necessarily a long one, but his peak is exceptional. Where does Steph Curry rank as far as best players that you've witnessed?
That's a really good question, and I haven't given it much thought only because of what you just said, that he's only in his 7th season. People are already proclaiming him, and when I say people, I mean some NBA players are already proclaiming him as the greatest shooter ever. I think I prefer to wait on that just a little bit for longevity's sake. That said, 7 years, he's accomplished an awful lot. If you checked it out over what you might think would be the duration of his career, he will certainly go down as one of the best. You can't dispute 50% for the floor, 91% for the line, and 45% from three. Those are three figures that are very, very difficult to match. So I'll have to give that some more thought, but certainly as it stands right now, he's got to be one of the best.
Yeah, he's undoubtedly exceptional. Those numbers are miraculous. From a seasoned vet to a rising star, Jahlil Okafor has shown an offensive prowess that's basically better than 95% of the bigs in the league. And he's only 2 years removed from high school. Have you ever seen a talent this exceptional at age 20? And what do you think his ceiling is?
Well, when you say talent, I assume that you are talking about the skill that's foremost in his package, which is the ability to post up and do some stuff in the low post. And quite frankly, given the way the game is being played today, that's become a bit of a lost art.
Yes.
I'm not sure I can think of many veterans who have a similar skill package as he does as it relates to what he does in the low post. I think the challenges for Ja going forward are going to be his defense, what he does in terms of rebounding, especially defensive rebounding. It's going to be my guess because Brett Brown seems to have a penchant for matching up with the other teams that tonight, especially since he's coming back from a 2-game absence due to illness, that he'll come off the bench. So, and then, of course, as you project to the summer, if the Sixers determine that Joel Embiid is healthy, you're going to have 3 young big guys, and everybody thinks that at least one of them is going to have to go. So, Ja's progress in the areas that I just mentioned, his defense, his rebounding, especially on the defensive end, are going to go a long way toward determining whether or not he remains with the Sixers.
Marc, Dan here. As the two young players in Okafor and Noel progress, can you talk to us about how their chemistry has developed both on and off the court?
I think off the court they remain very close. This is a team that is, I think in the locker room, it's amazing how well they get along. Of course, a lot of them are in the same boat. They're relatively new to the league. They are young. In terms of the on-the-court thing, that's going to take a little bit of time. And, I think back to Steph Curry when he first started. Now, granted, he didn't have Klay Thompson or Draymond Green yet, but he played for some terrible teams his first 2 or 3 years in the league. So chemistry takes a little bit of time. And I think when I spend time with coaches individually, they all say the same thing, that it's going to take some time, that 35 or 40 games isn't enough. So we'll see. For the Sixers, if they are able to make it work, it will really buck a trend. Right now, that 4 power forward spot tends to be somebody who can shoot from the outside. We know that's not Nerlens' game. We know that, statistically speaking, he's done well at the center or 5 spots. So it's going to be interesting going forward. But right now, I don't think the Sixers are ready to say, whether or not it's going to be a success or not.
I'm going to switch it over now back to the other first rounder. Mark, what progression have you seen in practice from Joel Embiid?
Well, I know that last summer, before they determined that the healing was not on schedule, that he was doing well, that he was playing 5-on-5 in practice behind closed doors. So I can only go for say, but from what I understand, he was really killing it in practice. He plays with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. He can play with his back to the basket. He will rebound. He will defend. He's got a gigantic body at 7'2" and maybe 250, 260. I will say this, that because he has spent so much time healing from these foot surgeries, the blessing in disguise has been, while he heals, he can do little else but shoot outside shots, and now he's become a very good outside shooter. So that's one other dimension you might be able to add to his game as he comes back.
From a man that's struggling to find the court to another man that owned the South Philly court for a collective 12 years, that man being the answer, Allen Iverson reigned supreme in Philadelphia for a long, long time. ESPN recently ranked him 46th all-time, which I personally find egregious. There are not 45 players in the all-time in the NBA better than Allen Iverson. Now, Charles Barkley also said that he feels that people are too hard on the Sixers. Where, in your mind, you called a lot of his games, obviously. Where does Allen Iverson rank all-time, and who do you think, what echelon in players is he in the company of with?
Sure. I'm not quite sure what Charles means by that, but it's nice to know that at least he's defending Philly in some way. In terms of Allen and where he stands all time, there are many ways to look at it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that his lifetime career record on the floor is below 500, which may or may not be attributable to him. Certainly, he played for some teams, especially in the beginning, that weren't very good.
He didn't necessarily have the best resources around him.
Well, exactly. So You may give him the benefit of the doubt. That said, I know that when coaches consider all-stars, they seriously consider records. That's why maybe a LaMarcus Aldridge makes it over a Damian Lillard. Obviously, the Spurs better team than Portland. So there may be some of that thinking. Allen was a high-volume shooter, which, when you take it into consideration, his lifetime field goal percentage, you also have to factor in he went to the line X amount of time, so his effective field goal percentage not nearly as bad as it is on paper. And then people will just look at the overall perception of him, which was that he was a guy who would look for his shots and would pass the ball only if the situation presented itself and wasn't necessarily looking to make other guys better. I think I would dispute that. I think Allen, in some measure, was trying to do that. And I can only guess that that's some of the reasoning why. I'd have to see the list and be able to compare him against some of the guys ahead of him, but just off the cuff, that's probably why they ranked him where they did.
All right, now, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but you've been the Sixers broadcaster for about 32 years now?
Well, it's my 22nd as the play-by-play guy.
Okay.
And 34th or 35th covering the team. Before this, I was the halftime host.
Yeah, I was close enough. So, Mark, if you could pinpoint throughout your career as a Sixers broadcaster thus far, what, in your opinion, is the single most memorable call you've ever made?
Yeah, I can think of the most memorable single call, and then I can think of the game, and ironically, they both involved Iverson. One was a game, I want to say the 98-99 season, the lockout season, and the Sixers were playing the Pacers at Wells Fargo Center. The crowds were on the increase. People were beginning to realize that something special was brewing. And in this particular game, I remember Iverson dogging Mark Jackson, who was then the Pacers point guard in the backcourt. And I mean, he was like a one-man press. And Jackson finally succumbed under the pressure, and the fans were in a frenzy. And he stole the ball, and then he dribbled around, and he found Aaron McKee in the corner, and he hit a three.
Oh, yeah.
And the place erupted. So
I'm picturing this perfectly, man. This is awesome. Please continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
there was also the other one I want to say right before or right after Thanksgiving where he stole the ball against Orlando and cruised in for the game-winning layup. That game with about a tenth of a second or so left on the clock. And the best game, I think, was, quite frankly, that same year when we had gone 8 seasons without being in the playoffs, and we were playing Orlando in the first round. I believe we were a 6 seed, they were a 3 seed. We had already split the first two in Orlando, and for the first time in Wells Fargo Center history, we were hosting a playoff game. And the place was sold out. It seemed as though people were standing from warm-ups to the final buzzer. I remember Matt Geiger nearly getting into a fight with the entire Magic bench, including Chuck Daly. May he rest in peace. And that was a memorable game. Of course, the Sixers won that, won the next one, and went on to upset the Magic in the playoffs.
Nice. That was about 3 answers for one question, so thank you for that one, Mark. But listen, I mean, no disrespect to Allah on this one. I am not even going to try to pronounce his last name when I say this. But I do really miss the on-air chemistry between you and Malik. I know you've described him as your on-air soulmate. How tough has it been to move on from Malik, and what's the transition with Allah been like since?
You know, it really hasn't been hard at all. Chemistry, again, takes time on the basketball court, and it takes time in the broadcast booth. That said, Allah is a great guy, which takes care of 90% of it, and he is a terrific broadcaster. He's a polished broadcaster. He spent a lot of time doing games nationally with CBS, so he understands the nature of what it is that we need to do, and I think as the Sixers get better, and we spend more time getting reps with one another, I think you're going to find the same chemistry that Malik and I were able to develop over 4 or 5 years.
Okay, great. So, Mark, listen, I understand you've been on WHIP before with Zach Gelb. And I'm going to ask you a favor here that I know Zach never asked you, and you're going to have to bear with me on this one. So, you know, like most young Philadelphia kids, I grew up with one day dreaming of playing for the Philadelphia 76ers. You know, my dream was later on crushed when I came to the realization I'm a 5'8" Jewish guy with no right hand. Is there any way, Mark, I can get you to give me a personalized call with a Zumoffism on it on the weekend sports program right now, something along the lines of Slammin' Sammy turning garbage into gold, just so I can relive my childhood dream for a moment here, Mark?
Or how about, here's the rebound to Goldberg. Goldberg breaking down the floor. There he is. Pull up three-pointer on the way. Yes!
Yes!
Goldberg coming up large.
Mark, I can die happy, man. That was awesome.
I love it.
Mark, that's all I got for you today. Thanks a ton, man. That was awesome.
You got it, my man. Take care.
Yeah.
Go Owls.
Yeah, go Owls. Thanks again, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
You got it.